I was fetching myself a glass of water in the middle of the night when whatever had eviscerated my roommate attacked me. It chased me through the flat. Fear like liquid fire coursed through my veins. It was gibbering, shrieking. I'd been so desperate to escape, I'd leapt through my living room window. Luckily, in the aftermath, I was found by a neighbor and soon ended up in the hospital. When I'd first returned to my senses, all I could see were those dark claws slashing, that wriggling, monstrous torso, that human face, an insectoid body, human limbs and arthropod claws fused together into some horrendous amalgam. I felt nausea boiling in my stomach. I thrashed and yelled. I was blind to the doctors and nurses around me. They held me down and sedated me. When I woke up again, I was calmer. A doctor was by my bedside and pulled up a chair next to me. He looked like he was in his 50s and his hair was black and speckled with gray. "Good afternoon, Mr. Anthony Wintham. My name is Dr. Joshua Stern." He paused. He seemed to be in the middle of picking the correct words. "Well, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll just say it. Sometime last night, you and your roommate," he glanced down at his clipboard, "Benjamin Harper, were attacked by some kind of wild animal. What species is, of course, not yet known. Unfortunately, Ben did not survive. At least that's what I heard from the cops before they left. You were unconscious until earlier this afternoon. You were very lucky you didn't break any bones. We gave you the standard shots and course of antibiotics. Your wounds have been washed and stitched. We're going to keep you overnight just to make sure everything's in order." He then suddenly added, "You understand?" Then he eyed me for a long moment. "How are you feeling?" I stared back at him hotly, my gaze betraying my annoyance. "Well, I feel just fucking great. Don't I? Don't I look great? What do you think?" My voice was croaky, but it echoed through the room. Dr. Stern looked back at me. "No need to be snippy. I just want to gauge the extent of your injuries. You've suffered a major trauma, not just physically, but mentally." His gaze softened. Suddenly, I broke eye contact with him. The memory of seeing Ben's corpse flashed through my brain. The blood. The viscera. I couldn't even tell what parts of him were left over. He'd been skinned and eaten mostly to the bone. Then that thing. It had come out of the shadows of his room, leapt at me. My breathing quickened. I felt my limbs shake from terror. I winced in pain. I was covered in bruises and scratches, and moving, even slightly, caused me great discomfort. Dr. Stern continued to eye me. "We have therapists who could chat with you before you leave. I'd highly recommend it, actually. It will help you to heal faster psychologically." I looked back up at him, my annoyance gone. All I could feel was terror and sadness. Ben had not been my favorite person, but he'd not deserved to die like that. "Maybe I will, but not right now. I think I should just rest. Could you give me something to help me sleep?" Dr. Stern agreed and left me the details of a local therapist he recommended. Before he left my room, he turned to tell me, "And the cops want to interview you tomorrow morning. just so you know. It's just to get your side of things." Then he smiled. I couldn't help but smile back. His was so genuine. "Okay. Well, I'm off home to the missus. Take that pill there if you need help sleeping. Hope you feel better." Then he was gone. I was alone in my room for the first time since I had awoken. My brain was still groggy from all the sedatives, and I finally got a good look at my room. It was relatively nice for what must have been a public hospital. I had an ensuite bathroom, but the room was small and the door to my room was within arm's reach of my bed. I turned my head and tried to sit up slightly. I yelled in pain as my stitches pulled in my side. I grunted. I then realized they'd tied some kind of gauze and brace around my stomach. I guess it was meant to hold me together or stop me from messing with my stitches. I rolled onto my side with great effort and with many more grunts of pain managed to get to my feet. I hobbled over to the bathroom and peed. I tried for a number 2, but it was a no-go. Too painful. Oh well. I limped slowly back to my bed and slumped back down. I felt like I'd been sliced all over my stomach and chest. As I lay in bed, I realized that's probably exactly what happened. I drank a bunch of water and nibbled on some cheese biscuits they'd left me for my tea. Then I took my blue sleeping pill and got myself as comfy as one could get in those scratchy hospital linens. As I lay in the dark of my room, I felt an anxious sweat bead my forehead as I played the events of the last 24 hours over and over in my brain. I had awoken in the early hours of that fateful morning. It had been a Sunday. I felt that horrendous sticky heat one gets from drinking way too much alcohol. I had had hot coals in my throat from all the shots and cigarettes I'd choked down the previous night. Ben and I had gone out with some friends. It had been pretty wild. I don't remember how I got home. All I remember is waking up with an unendurable thirst. With eyes half open, I groped and shambled my way through our dark flat to the kitchen. I noticed something was wrong when my bare foot stepped on something cold and slimy. I heard a loud squelch. "What the hell is that?" I mumbled. I groped for the lights but couldn't find them. I was still too asleep and half drunk, so I did not understand what was happening. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. There, on the floor, just beneath the fridge, was some kind of goo. It was translucent but had a slight blue tint. It smelled sweet like honey, but not quite. My forehead was a knot of confusion. Then I noticed the fridge was slightly ajar. It was an old fridge, one of those models with rounded edges from the 1950s that just never stop running. It was dark blue with a silver outline. I saw traces of the same goo on the sides of the fridge door as I pulled it open. When I saw what was on the other side, I simply gaped. My mouth hung open in disbelief. My eyes stared unblinking. Within the fridge, well, there was no fridge. The inside of the fridge was completely gone. No light, no half-rotten veggies, no leftover Chinese food. No. In place of all these things was a worn stone staircase, cut from a shiny black stone. I believe it resembled obsidian. The maw of the doorway yawned as cold as the Arctic. I felt an icy wind blow softly from within the doorway. Small icicles had formed on the circular roof which sat above the darkened staircase. I gaped still. and slowly studied the impossible staircase. The light of my phone cast long shadows. The stairs were coated with a thin film of that same slime and seemed to go on forever, down and deeper, until darkness swallowed them up below. No fucking way. Nope, not today, I said stupidly, and slammed the fridge door shut. My heart was beating hard. I felt confused and sick. I spun around when suddenly I heard something scuttle in the corridor. I then noticed, using my phone's flashlight, that a line of that goo ran from the fridge all the way through the kitchen into Ben's room. I saw through the kitchen doorway that his bedroom door was open. I should have just run at that moment. I should have run and never looked back. But I looked through the doorway. Transfixed, I stumbled forward. In the blue glow of the moon, I saw Ben lying on his bed, spread eagle. But when I looked closer, I saw that it was not him. It was what was left of him. And I saw the thing that did it come scuttling out of the dark. I heard a horrible clicking noise. A click, click, click of giant pincers. I heard a loud trilling sound. Then I saw the thing come out of the dark. It was humanoid, but only slightly, and I only say this because it's the one word I can think of. Imagine a person, except every limb is twisted the wrong way, so that this thing was forced to run on all fours, with limbs bent all backwards. It had 2 heads. One faced me, and it was a human mask stretched across something else. The mask was all out of shape. The other face was at the end of a hideously long neck that was held in the dark. Its body was a wriggling mass of human flesh and some kind of carapace, like that of a crab or arachnid. It had 10 segmented limbs that ended in large claws. Those claws lashed out at me. What felt like hot blades sliced through my chest and stomach. I screamed in pain, nearly fell over. I just managed to back away. The creature stepped back too. I felt something sticky cover my wounds. It was that slime. I looked up again. The whole creeping creature was covered in blue slime. I felt bile rise in my throat as I sprinted away, screaming, a primal scream of pain and terror. It didn't sound human. The thing chased me. It came, scuttling on its arthropod legs, slashing at me, clipping my ankles once or twice. My panting and its trilling filled the darkened flat. I wondered if perhaps a neighbor had heard the noise. Could the police be coming? The way the thing moved toward me reminded of a giant spider. As I entered the living room, I realized there was no way I was going to have time to unlock and leave my flat through the front door. I knew I didn't have time to reach my phone and call someone, and then wait for them. I needed to get out now. Right now. In desperation, I picked up the nearest chair and hurled it at the large window. The chair smashed clean through with a loud crash. I prayed the fall wouldn't be too bad and leapt right through. I didn't remember anything else until I woke up here. I kept my eyes closed as I lay in the hospital bed. My heart was hammering in my chest as I remembered how that thing had nearly got me. Where had it come from? Were there more staircases like that nearby? I shivered at the thought. By around 9 o'clock that evening, the nurses made one last visit to collect the leftover food I had for tea. They gave me my evening medication and then left. I went over those memories again and again. I was deciding what I would tell the cops and what I would omit. I would stick with the wild animal story. I mean, how a wild animal could just appear in a flat in the middle of the city, kill one person and maim another, then just disappear completely? It's crazy to me. But I'm also not interested in sounding like a crazy person to the cops. If I told anyone about the fridge, about the creature, its true nature, well, I would end up in some terrible mental institution. So, I'll just stick with whatever crazy story they have. Agreeing with their madness is better than drawing attention because of my own. As all this raced through my head, I felt a warmness start to spread through my body. I realized the sleeping pill must be working. My thoughts slowed. My breathing calmed. Soon, I was fast asleep. My ears heard a clicking noise as I awoke. My door stood open. I yelled as my eyes opened and I saw that creature standing down at the end of the hallway. It stood there for a moment. It trilled. I yelled, "Help! Help! Nurse! Anyone!" The hallway remained dark and silent. No one answered me. Were they dead? What had happened? I tried to sit up, but my wounds screamed at me to stop moving. The thing started walking towards me. It scuttled so like an insect it sent shivers rippling down my spine. My lungs burned with fear. I tried desperately to get up, but I could barely move. The pain was excruciating. I yelled as I pulled myself to a sitting position, but it was too late. As I turned to see where the thing was, I bellowed. It was hovering right over my bed. Its horrifying masked face staring down at me. Its eyes were wrinkled and hidden behind disfigured flesh. It pressed a large claw against my cheek. Then it stood back and used another claw to grab my left ankle. I felt all the bones therein snap. The pain I felt cannot be fully described. It was like someone had spilled liquid fire on my leg. I screamed brutally, with full force. I think I may have blacked out, because the next thing I remember, I was on the cold floor. I blinked and moaned. I was being dragged along by that thing. My ankle screamed with pain, and white-hot pangs leapt up my leg. I used all my strength to lift my head and look where I was going. The thing was dragging me through the hall. A fluorescent light started to flicker as we approached a door. The thing winced at the sudden light and reached up and smashed it so that the flickering ceased immediately. It lurched forward and pushed the door open. Inside was a small communal space. It must be where the hospital staff come to take breaks and make coffee. Of all the pieces of furniture within this room, the one the monster cared about most was the door of a large pantry. A chill spread through me. Another doorway? It wanted to take me? As the terrifying thought ripped through me, I twisted my ankle, but to no avail. The thing moved slowly, but pulled me inexorably toward that wooden door. It stretched a segmented appendage forward and knocked 3 times on the pantry door. There was a pause. Something seemed to ripple through the wooden surface of the door. Even in the dim light of the hospital, I could see it. All I could hear was my heavy breathing and the soft clicks of the monster. Then it pulled the pantry door open slowly. I knew the chances there would be no staircase was 0, but I still hoped it would be filled with normal food, like a normal pantry. But of course, there was the black staircase, gaping up at us. I moaned in horror and tried to kick at the thing. Again, it was useless. Then the thing bent forward, and suddenly I felt its grip on my leg loosen. Then my leg fell and hit the floor. I was momentarily stunned. It was, too. As I realized it had lost my leg, it turned to grab me again. I mustered all my strength and kicked the thing as hard as I could. It screamed as it tumbled forward, already bent out of balance. I heard it continue to click, shriek, and trill menacingly as it fell down those stairs. As the sound of it faded from my ears, I lay still. My body felt cold. Could I have lost too much blood? Was I going to die? My entire left leg was now numb. I slowly shambled onto my right leg. I shut the pantry door. Then, out of strange instinct, I knocked on it 3 times. As I did, I forced my eyes closed and willed the doorway locked. The stairway gone. Then, I opened the pantry door again. I yelled with delight when I saw that there was very normal, almost out-of-date food in that pantry. I was really overjoyed. The cops have a new ridiculous theory. They now believe a madman was responsible for my initial assault and the brutal murder of Ben. That he had followed me to the hospital to finish me off, and was then also responsible for the assaults last night. I was found unconscious in front of the pantry by the first nurse from the morning shift. She also found the bodies of everyone else. This thing had killed everyone. Every nurse, patient, and doctor on that floor had been torn to pieces. Among these dead were Dr. Stern and many nurses who had helped me. I tried really hard not to think about them. I had really liked Dr. Stern. I must have been too out of it to notice. What upsets me more than all the death is that the thing hadn't killed me like the others. No, it had wanted to take me away. To take me to its home? Its dimension? I really have no idea. I shiver at the thought. I'm still in the hospital, but the cops have left someone behind to watch over me. They are looking for some psychopathic killer. They're wrong, of course, but at least we agree there is something dangerous after me. I'll take their help, and once my leg has healed, I'm going to get far away from here. While I lay here in my hospital bed, I still wonder, have I killed that thing, or just pissed it off? Would it be back? I guess only time will tell.